Can everyone hear? You can move up to the front if you'd like, if you're able. I just pointed out to the TV station that was interviewing me, it's great to hear everybody driving by and beeping, and not a single beep was followed by any type of hand gesture. So I think that means that they're all with us. Well, thank you all very much for coming out tonight to join us in saying no more forever wars. This is an extremely important message to send, and I appreciate you being here. I'd like to ask you to indulge me, if you would, before we get started, and join me in a moment of silence for the 6 U.S. service members who were killed in Iran. Thank you, and let's do a moment of silence for the hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent civilians who were killed in Iran. Thank you all very much. Well, I'm Mike Thompson, and I have the great honor of representing the 4th Congressional District, which includes Yolo County and most certainly Woodland. And I'm proud to be here with you to speak out this evening with you. I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. I served with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam. And like any other combat veteran who is here tonight or anyplace else, I can say with absolute confidence that the old saying, war is hell, is true, and combat is even worse. I was wounded in combat in Vietnam, and I was one of the lucky ones. A lot of the people I served with and a lot of other folks who served our country in the military weren't so lucky. They did not come back. And that's the reality of war. It's the sad, sad reality of war. That's why John Kennedy said, mankind must put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind. You know, I told you I served with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam. This is the 173rd Airborne Brigade unit patch. And I share that with you because we had a very similar rally last night in Napa, and a young man who fought in Afghanistan was there, and he gave me that patch. He gave it to me last night. He said, this is one of the patches I wore when I was in combat, and you were in the 173rd, and I want you to have it. I had a real hard time not crying, because we've always been told, you know, this is the war that's going to end the war. And here's another young guy who had to go through the hell of combat and had to get out of that place alive. And he's going to carry the scars of war, the thoughts of war, with him for the rest of his life. And that's not something that we should look at doing casually. And I'm sad to say that I think what this president's doing is he's taking a pretty casual approach to what's going on. You know, our founding fathers knew the reality of war. That's why they wrote into the Constitution of the United States of America that it's the Congress that votes to go to war. The Congress votes to go to war, so the American people have a voice in whether or not we go to war. There's no vote by this Congress to go into Iran. The attack on Iran was unauthorized, unconstitutional, And be certain, it is a war. This president is even calling it a war. His Secretary of War is calling it a war. This is a war. It's a war that was waged without justification. It's a war that was waged without proper planning in any regard. I went to the briefing, the congressional member only briefing this week when I flew back to DC. I spent an hour. I heard from the Secretary of War, heard from the Secretary of State, I heard from the head of the FBI, I heard from a couple of generals who were there, and I can tell you one thing for certain. I walked out of that hearing knowing two things. Knowing I had more questions after I left than I had when I got there, and knowing it was an hour of my life that I'll never get back. There was no justification, no plan. The Secretary of State, when we asked, what about our constituents? What about Americans who are there in that part of the world? What do we do about them? Don't worry, we've got it handled. We'll send planes, we'll get everybody out. Well, my office is working overtime, breaking their pick to try and get constituents of ours home. And the least helpful in the whole loop has been the Secretary of State's office. No plan, no justification, no authorization, and it doesn't look to me like there's any exit strategy. As a matter of fact, what we're doing over there from the Oval Office, we're told, seems to change every minute. Changes almost as quickly as his justification for why we are going into Iran in the first place. Now, make no mistake about it, the regime in Iran is terrible, they're horrible, they're a disaster, they're bad. And make no mistake about it, we have to do everything we can to defend our nation, the United States of America. But that's not up to one person to decide. That's why the Constitution says that Congress shall vote on war. Now, I voted against the authorization to use military force to go into Iraq during the Iraq War. I was one of some, but not one of a lot of members of Congress to do that. And I was criticized pretty heavily when I cast that vote. Called names, called out. But you know, we all know today that was the right vote. That was the right vote. And we always have to do the right thing. That's why this week, on Thursday before flying back home on Friday, I was proud to vote for the War Powers Resolution. A yes vote on the War Powers Resolution was the right thing. The War Powers Resolution would have required this president to do the right thing, to provide the justification to get the vote from Congress. But you've followed the news, you've heard what he's saying, justification. First thing we heard, I had to do it because they were days, weeks if not days away from having a nuclear capability that they could launch on us. Now that's interesting because in June he said our strikes were so successful we've obliterated any effort they have or any success they have or any possibility they can have to build any nuclear weapons. And then he's changed his tune 2 or 3 different times. The one, he lied? The one that I got the biggest kick out of is when he said, I had to get them before they got me. Mr. President, this is not about you. It's not about one person. It's most certainly not about this president. This is about American security. This is about our national defense. This is about the rule of law. This is about the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's what needs to be first and foremost and up front. As I mentioned already, sadly, 6 U.S. service members, thousands of civilians have been lost. We've spent over $5 billion on this war already. The American people deserve better. And having you here tonight sends a loud message that the American people deserve better. So thank you for being here, and it's my honor to introduce a veteran, Ramon Urbano. Ramon, all right, you're up, man.
Let me untangle here first. I think we deserve the real reason and the plan of why we're in the war. Thank you. I was in Vietnam from 1966 to 1967. I was very lucky to have started in the service when the war just started out. And the reason I say that, because at that time, it was pretty well taken for granted. It was mom's apple pie, it was red flag, it was the American flag, and it was the right thing to do. The idea was that we're going to go into Vietnam and stop the communists from coming into Vietnam. Fact is that we lost 58,000 American troops and women. And also it lasted 21 years. And while I'm talking about years, let's talk about Afghanistan. That took 20 years. So think about it, 21 years, 20 years, that's a long time. Now what are we doing in Iran right now? It was a bad idea, first of all, to go in. It was illegal, for starters. And number two, also, it really should not have happened because it complicates the whole situation in the Middle East. And so it's much more dangerous than we think it is. But what bothers me is that it smells like another Vietnam, another Afghanistan, another Iraq. And that's one thing that we can't have again. Think of your children, your grandchildren, for looking at the crowd here, that we don't need that. So anyhow, so I just want to leave you with the idea that we can really fight this if we get together. We support the congressman. He has the right idea. And so I just want to tell you, thank you so much for being here. And let's see if we can stop this damn thing, okay? Thank you so much. I forgot my major job here. I'd like to introduce Karen.
Thank you, sir. I'm Karen White. Today I stand before you not only as a concerned citizen, but a concerned 22-year Iraqi and Afghanistan veteran. I served 3 of my 4 deployments between being in theaters of Iraq and Afghanistan, and my 4th one was in the Middle East as well. I believe Iran has been a threat to the U.S. and others throughout the world, as evident by the harm and death they have directly and indirectly caused since 1979. However, this attack by our government in Israel on February 28th could lead to another forever war. This conflict, which our President and Secretary of Defense has stated early on was a war and not a major conflict, has the potential to drag our NATO members into it. On March 2nd and 4th, Iran has struck Cyprus and Turkey, respectively, which are NATO members. Fact, the U.S. is the only country to have ever used Article 5 under NATO. I say that it could lead to a forever war, because it seems our federal administration has not fully learned from our 20-year war in the Middle East that ceased on August 30th, 2021. Folks, that was only 4.5 years ago. The approach of using force to change a regime or try to change hearts and minds of people with use of force does not work, will not work, has never worked. It only creates more resistance and drags out the conflict. This is not a conventional foe. Use of terror networks as the basis of their attack on our citizens and those around the world tell us this. Therefore, cutting off the head of a snake does not render it inert. This only emboldens the followers of the ideology and makes them dig in more and do more harm. Hence, the seeing of no de-escalation from this regime after just a few retaliatory strikes. This is what has led me to the stance of no forever war. The Middle East has been unstable throughout various points of history and in recent past. The most recent was the 20-year war that we were at the helm of. It caused great destabilization of Afghanistan when we withdrew our stabilizing forces. Now we have this, and it's causing instability in the region for members in our military, the citizens of the region, world leaders, and economics. The U.S. leadership has not presented to Congress or to us as the citizens a plan to off-ramp from this. As of March 5th, we have lost 6 members of our armed forces and countless others injured. One life is too many to lose of our brothers and sisters in arms. More of our military members could be killed in these coming days. This is not acceptable when we have no clear and no direct plan on how to exit this mess that we find ourselves in as a nation. This is a lack of clear foresight that only creates more chaos in the region of this world. Diplomacy should have been more focused. This reminds me of President Theodore Roosevelt's great quote, "Speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far." This administration has yet to learn the art of how to make that deal with that approach. No forever wars. I present now Oscar.
Good afternoon, Woodland. How is everybody? There we go. We're at a rally, correct? There you go. We're anti-Trump, correct? There we go, folks. I just wanted to get a little life in everybody first. First, I want to thank all of you and all the veterans I can see out there behind us and the congressman for having us here and for being such a great leader on this subject matter, which we unfortunately have to be here for on a beautiful Sunday, early spring. My name is Oscar Arbulu. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, a father of 2, a first-generation American whose parents immigrated from South America, and a Northern California kid born and raised. The phrase "forever war" didn't appear out of nowhere. It entered our vocabulary because for more than 2 decades, Americans have watched our country drift into conflict after conflict without real accountability, without fully asking the people. That didn't start this year. It didn't start with one president. It has been building for a long time. For far too long, our politics have felt more like the C-suite boardroom and less like a union hall. A small group makes the calls, the risks are socialized, the costs are carried by working families and service members. And real public debates get squeezed out. Trump didn't invent this pattern, y'all. He is what happens when we normalize it. And that should be a concern for each and every one of us out here. Because war is not abstract, nor just clips on social media. War is a 19-year-old with a buttstock of an M16 resting on his shoulder. War is families staring at a phone knowing that any moment it could ring and change their lives forever, like the 6 American families who've already received that knock, that call, and that unimaginable news. War is veterans coming home carrying burdens they didn't choose to. And now we have a leader who's taking advantage of this broken political culture and pushing it even further. When the person sitting at the Oval Office lacks depth, restraint, and seriousness in the decision of war and peace, the risk of our service members grow. Bluster is not strategy, impulses are not doctrine, ego is not a national security plan. Sending Americans into harm's way demands wisdom, it demands preparation, it demands leaders who respect the Constitution and rule of law. It demands Congress willing to assert its authority and check this White House when it overreaches. And if we're not getting that leadership, then we have to stop pretending we're waiting politely for it to be fixed. Policy doesn't change because leaders wake up inspired. It changes when people organize in ways that make inaction more costly than change. War continues because it's politically convenient. It continues because powerful interests benefit from it. It continues when silence is mistaken for consent. But it's not inevitable. It is the product of choices, and choices can be disrupted. So folks, what do? We build organized pressure that does not disappear after one rally. We connect veterans, unions, students, faith leaders, and working families. We demand public positions. We make war authorization politically costly. This is how power shifts. This is not about left versus right. This is whether democracy is participatory or decorative. We are seeing that right now. What we're seeing right now isn't new, but what we choose to do about it can be. Thank you so much, folks, for your time. Stay engaged. The future generations are dependent on us. No forever wars. And with that, I'll give it to my fellow Marine and crayon eater, Mike Thompson.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm pretty angry, but I will watch my mouth. You have my word. So I served in the United States Marine Corps, and that means two things. First, I'm very proud to stand here today alongside veterans and supporters from every branch of service. And second, I'm legally required to mention the Marine Corps at least once, so I'm glad I got that out of the way. My name is Mike Tilden. I am a Marine Corps combat veteran, and I'm a proud Union member from Vacaville. I want to thank Congressman Thompson and his staff for generously offering me a few minutes to speak on something I feel strongly about. And before I go any further, if you're a veteran here today, would you please raise your hand? So those people who just raised their hands, those are the people this conversation is about. Those are the people who said, I'll go. Whatever it takes, wherever it is, whatever it costs, I'll go. And to everyone here who never wore a uniform but showed up today anyway, your presence and your civic engagement matters too. Staying engaged in these decisions, raising your voice, standing alongside the people who served, that means everything. That's citizenship. And we need it. It's an honor to stand among all of you. Like every veteran here, I once raised my right hand and I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And anyone who ever took that oath knows that it does not leave you. It stays with you when you come home. It stays with you when you build a life and raise a family, and you find new ways to serve. And it stays with you in the quiet moments and in moments like this one when it's time to be loud.
That's right. Yeah.
The oath we took wasn't about the time we spent in uniform. It was about the Constitution itself, about what this country is supposed to be. I joined when I was 17 years old. The Marine Corps didn't shape me, it raised me. Those men and women became my family. So when I talk about the cost of war, I'm not talking about an abstraction. I'm talking about the people I would have followed anywhere. People like the ones here today who you just saw raise their hands. That's exactly why the decision to send them into harm's way should never be made casually, like the congressman said, or with callous disregard. It should never be made recklessly, and it should never be made by one person acting alone. It's exactly why the Constitution put that decision in the hands of the people. Not one person, but all of us, the American people. One part of the Constitution that many Americans don't think about very often is found in Article 1, Section 8, like the congressman said, the power that gives the Congress to declare war. The founders were clear about this. They had just fought a revolution against unchecked authority. They knew exactly what happens when one person has the power to drag a nation into war, so they didn't give that power to a king. They didn't give that power to a president. They didn't give that power to one person. They entrusted it to Congress, the body closest to the people. They understood that the ones who bear the cost of war should have a voice in the decision to start with. They placed that responsibility there intentionally because war is the hardest decision a democracy makes. Congress passed the War Powers Resolution of 1973 to try to rein in presidential war making, requiring the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying forces and limiting unauthorized engagements to 60 days. None of this was designed to make war easy because it's not a game. And now our country finds itself embroiled in yet another war. A war that the American people never fully debated and Congress never truly authorized. A war launched under the authority of one person while the constitutional guardrails meant to protect this country were shoved aside with reckless abandon. War is a trench in France. It's a fighting hole on Iwo Jima. It's a jungle in Vietnam. It's a bridge in Fallujah. It's a valley in Afghanistan. War is a young veteran with a bottle of liquor in a small town in the United States trying to chase away the demons that followed him home. War is never abstract for those of us who served. It has faces, it has names, it has husbands and wives, daughters and sons counting the days, waiting at home. Many of us in the post-9/11 generation grew up in a country that seemed to be at war for most of our adult lives. We deployed, some of us more than once, and some of our friends didn't come home. A lot of our friends didn't come home. Others came home carrying wounds that people could see, and some that they couldn't. Wounds that don't show up on any scan, but they'll wake them up at 3 in the morning for the rest of their lives. We served because we believed in the mission, we believed in each other, and we believed in the country and the Constitution that we swore to defend. But over time, we also saw what happens when wars stretch on, without clear missions, without clear endings, and without clear accountability. And that's how wars become forever wars. And the cost of a forever war isn't measured in strategy sessions or budget line items. It's not measured in dollar signs or stock dividends. It's measured in deployments, in families carrying the weight of years apart, in veterans coming home broken and spending so much precious time trying to find their footing again. And far too often, it's measured in the funerals. Dwight Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, 5-star general, former President of the United States, said he hated war as only a soldier who has lived it can. He said every gun that's made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, from those who are cold and who are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, and the hopes of its children. He spoke as one who has seen war's brutality, its futility, and its stupidity. That's not weakness. That's wisdom earned the hard way, and it's the kind of wisdom that should be at the center of every decision to send Americans into harm's way. Veterans from every generation understand the weight of these decisions, from Vietnam to the Gulf War to the post-9/11 generation who carried the fight for 2 decades. Different wars, different eras, different battlefields, but the same oath to the Constitution. And that oath did not come with an expiration date. When I came home, I found a new way to serve, standing alongside working people and helping fellow veterans build stable careers in the trades. Because service doesn't end when the uniform comes off. And when wars end, our responsibility to those who fought them doesn't end either. We owe veterans the care, the support, and the commitment that lasts long after the headlines fade. In a democracy, citizens don't just thank veterans for their service. They stay engaged in the decisions that send them to war. So today, as veterans, and as families, and as activists, and as citizens, and as people who care deeply about the future of this country, we stand together around a simple belief that when America sends its sons and daughters into harm's way, that decision should reflect the full gravity of that sacrifice. Those decisions should follow the Constitution we swore to support and defend, and that the voices of those who have worn the uniform should always have a place in that conversation. Because honoring veterans means more than a bumper sticker or a discount on a cup of coffee. It means honoring the Constitution we swore to defend by staying engaged, demanding accountability, from those who wield the power of war. We raised our right hands once, and we are raising our voices now, and we will not stop until the people who bear the cost of war have a real voice in the decision to start one. That oath didn't end when our service did, and neither does our fight. So thank you to Congressman Thompson, and thank you to every veteran, military family, and supporter here today who still stand by and believe in that oath and that fight. Thank you.
Thank you all again for being here. And I just want to say, you know, if I were ever to follow this president any place, it would be out of blind curiosity. But I'd follow you guys any place. Thank you. Thank you for serving our country. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for being great Americans. And thank you to all of you, because we know no forever wars. No forever wars. No forever wars. Thank you all very, very much.